Hello, everyone. Welcome to this Radcast of the Social Club at the End of the World. Now, since it's December 18th, less than a week before Christmas, understandably, people are busy. A lot of people are busy, so we've got a smaller group today, and that's just fine. I actually kind of like it that way for the stuff we're going to be talking about because we've got a lot to dig into. So we're going to start today. I'll share the agenda on the screen here. We're going to start with personal updates, and then I'm going to tell everyone a story time with Jamin, a visual story that I'm going to put here because this is what it represents, a new story for humanity. And then from there, we'll take some time and talk about it. But from there, we'll jump very quickly to an update on the Catholic strategy, which grows out of that new story for humanity. So that's the agenda. We can add more items as we wish. As always, as usual, I'll be moderating, and keeping track of time and whatnot. So with that, let's just jump in with personal updates. So if you'd like to do a personal update in this next section, just raise your hand right now so I can know that you want to do a personal. Okay, so I've got Victoria and Adam. Okay, and I'm going to raise my hand. So we're going to have personal updates from Adam, then Victoria, and finally Jamin. Actually, we'll go ladies first. So we're going to now turn to Victoria. Victoria, looking forward to your personal update, followed by Adam.
Hello, guys, and hello, everyone listening. Things here in Oklahoma are rolling along. Not much has changed as far as I keep trying to talk to people about what's happening, but I say not much has changed. There's obviously more on the mainstream news than there has been. So I think that I see, a sprinkling of like, oh my goodness, I guess there really might be an issue, but certainly not a big one. But anyway, getting into the holiday spirit and thankful for the social club and just Merry Christmas to everyone out there who's watching.
Thank you, sweetie. Awesome. Beautiful. All righty. And next, personal update from Adam. How are you, Adam? Great to see you. Take it away.
Oh, good to be here. Thank you, Jamin. Hello, everybody. Victoria, Dan. Well, I published my Red Man, White Man paper, and not getting very many views yet, about 30 or so probably. And but I did get a little bit of criticism from a couple people about the calling it Red Man, White Man, and referring to indigenous people as Red Man. I did call a local tribe about that, and tried to. I had to leave them a message, and they've never returned my call. I don't expect that they will. So, not having much success in my efforts. And then a few other things have happened. Like the power went out, and maybe I'll talk about that later. It was interesting when the power went out. It went out all night long, and and I went into emergency mode. I mean, I didn't realize that it was just this area that I was in. If you went half mile any direction, the power was on, but I didn't know that. So I went into emergency mode. I started filling the bathtub up with water, and stuff like that, and I overreacted, I guess, a little bit. But considering everything, I don't think that's too strange. Anyway, so that's about where I am, and I'm excited to hear your information there, Jamin. That's all I have to say right now. Thanks.
I would do the same thing if mine went out. So.
Wow. Yeah. Really amazing times that we're entering into. All right, so I'll give my personal update, and then I'll jump into the rest of the agenda items. So, spending pretty much all available time, aside from the mandatory things that take our time in life. But beyond those, spending all available time working on preparing for this really big and important meeting on January 8th with the leaders of the Cleveland Catholic Diocese in Cleveland, Ohio. And the thing I've been working on the most of all is what I'm about to share with you all with Story Time with Jamin, a new story for humanity, because we're going to present this story to the leadership of the Catholic Church. And this story itself, which includes the Catholic Church as a participant, a player in the story, a character in the story, and not just one. It's this story that we firmly believe. I've been working on this very closely with Michael Call and also Jamie. We believe that this story will be the story that will get the Catholic Church rolling in high gear to take on these problems in a very specific way that we'll get to in the story itself. So my personal update is I am absolutely on fire with co-creating this new story for humanity. And we are a species who runs on stories, right? You know, as I look at Dan, I think to myself, all the patients that he must have dealt with over the course of his career, people who made up a story that people are trying to poison them, or made up a story that they're no good, that they're unlovable, whatever. These are all stories. We're a species who runs on stories. So all of our problems and our greatest accomplishments, I would say, somebody first told a story before any of those actually happened. So anyway, enough preamble on that. Let me jump in to telling you this new story for humanity. And I'm going to do it in a format of a movie, right? A movie that has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And before I even jump into the movie, I'm going to share a little bit of an extended trailer, if you will, in two parts, both of which I think will be very familiar to all of us, since we're all in the same age range. We grew up and came of age, in the 60s and 70s, and this is right in line. So let me start by screen sharing here. And I'm going to play two video clips. Think of this as the movie trailer, okay? Now, the two clips I'm going to play are the introductions. The first one is the introduction to MASH, the series MASH from the 70s and through the early 80s. Because a big part of this story, the new story for humanity, involves, get this, a MASH unit for Mother Earth. An urgent care unit for Mother Earth needs urgent care right now, as well as long-term care, right? The helicopter is landing. We've got to get the bodies out and stop the bleeding. That's what's called urgent care. Stop the bleeding, get the patient breathing again, right? That's urgent care. And then from there, you go into long-term therapy and healing, okay? Mother Earth needs both. Mother Earth needs both. So that's why I'm going to start with, let me screen share. Hey, Michael, look, you're right on time, Michael. Let me just check in with Michael because we're actually, how is everything, Michael?
Hey, I'm, I'm in a store, but I'm, getting my consumerism on. Yeah, carry on.
Okay, very good. Okay, but everything's good otherwise?
Everything's good. I'm at the social club at the end of the world.
Love it, love it. Okay, welcome, Michael. Okay, so I'm just now starting with the new story for humanity that we've been cooking up, you and I and Jamie. And so primarily, we've had a lot of input from a lot of folks, Melissa, notably Melissa and Alice, and lots of folks. So anyway, but look So we're going to start with 2 videos which constitute kind of the trailer for this news story. So first we're going to start with the opening for MASH. Okay, that was the opening for MASH, which is very familiar to all of us, with the possible exception of Michael because of his youth. And as I said, this, a very important metaphor for the news story for humanity that we're developing is that it is time for a MASH unit for Mother Earth. It's a time for healing. And interestingly, MASH, the series, first preceded by the movie, was late 60s, early 70s time frame, and the world was reeling from all the tragedies of Vietnam War and et cetera. Of course, MASH was based on the Korean War, but it's fundamentally about healing. It was a program about healing, and they brought comedy into it and intellect and all kinds of interesting things, but it was fundamentally about healing. Next, I'm going to screen share and show another thing about healing. This is a bit different. And by the way, I just got a message that said, stop broadcasting content that you don't have the right to broadcast or whatever. But anyway, so if we get cut off, just look for a new Hangout link. But hopefully we won't get cut off. But if we do, just go to your email and I'll send a new Hangout link there. So this is the opening to the $6 Million Man. But instead of thinking of Steve Austin as the entity that's crashing and burning and needs to be rebuilt, think of it as Mother Earth, including all of us.
Side stick. Oh, looks good. Roger. I've got a blowout. Day for 3. Get your pitch to 0. Pitches out. I can't hold altitude. Correction. Alpha horn is off. Prep selected. Emergency. Flight com. I can't hold it. She's breaking up. She's breaking. Steve Austin, astronaut. A man barely alive. Gentlemen, we can rebuild him. We have the technology. We have the capability to make the world's first bionic man. Steve Austin will be that man. Better than he was before. Better, stronger, faster.
How aspirational, how inspiring. So now, remember I talked about, instead of thinking of it as Steve Austin, the patient, think of Mother Earth as the patient. Think of Mother Earth on the operating table. Welcome, Melissa. Welcome to the Social Club. Great to see you. A MASH unit for Mother Earth, an intensive care operating room for Mother Earth. This is what we're talking about. This is what is needed right now. And But so think of what I just showed between MASH and the $6 Million Man. That's the trailer to the movie. What I'm going to show next is an overview of the basic outline of the movie, beginning, middle, and end. And this is a movie of the news story for humanity. So to do that, I'm going to go over to my other screen here. You all see that? Where I'm sharing here. And so in the movie, so the trailer really consists of the following parts. You see here in the upper left, Mother Earth is in a tailspin. That's like Steve Austin and his spacecraft. You know, I can't hold altitude. She's breaking up. She's breaking up. And then the crash happens. Well, the crash is coming, and we don't know how bad it will be, but we know it will be bad. Right? Dan was talking earlier about the sense of dread, you know, and we all know this crash is coming. Well, we're in the early stages of the crash, but it ain't over yet. And then, you know, immediately we cut to whether it's a MASH unit for Mother Earth or the operating room where you've got Steve Austin, a man barely alive. Mother Earth, a planet barely alive, right? We can rebuild her. So that's the trailer. We can heal and we can rebuild. Right? We need to have, for this story to be viable, we need to get excited about it. We need to have something aspirational that inspires us. There has to be a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, or we're not going to go, or these leprechauns aren't going to go out pursuing it. Right? So give us a bone to chomp on. We can heal. We can heal and we can overcome. Okay? So moving on down, so the movie consists of 3 parts. The movie itself, a beginning, a middle, and an end. In the beginning, we introduce the characters. In the middle, we put them in their worst possible predicament. And in the end, we get them out. So introducing the characters in the beginning. Who do we have? Well, we have the rich. Here's this, you know, Monopoly man with a top hat, in charge of this oil derrick, an Oklahoma oil derrick. All right, and you have the people who are all, you know, each individually is a bit player at the table, but collectively they're part of the apparatus that enables the economy to run and that enables the rich to get richer. Right? They do the work, and they are the consumers to buy the mass-produced products that the rich produce to sell to the people and get them addicted to thinking they need to have this and that and this and that. And so there's the system right there that's destroying Mother Earth. And I put it as kind of like this mining operation that's just destroying and bleeding Mother Earth. That's why you have a giant drop of blood coming out of the oil derrick, right? Which is money for the rich. And they take some of that money and hand it over to the government, who are basically have become their hired thugs. I write here, government, institutionalized, rational oppression backed by violence. They're able to rationalize the whole thing with logic. We're a tool using species, and we use the tool of rationality to justify just about anything. A great book on that subject, which I'll talk about at some point. It's called Voltaire's Bastards, written by a Canadian author that goes into just how we use rationality to rationalize anything. And then, so you have these 3 players, the rich, the government, and the people. And then you have a 4th subset of humanity, which is the church. And in this opening scene, all they're doing is praying. They're not taking action. They're not stepping in. They're praying. And life goes on. And then, of course, the 5th and most important character in the whole play is Mother Earth. And she's just getting raped and bled dry. We're killing Mother Earth in order to rape the resources from her to make money in the short term. So there you have it. That's the opening. This is the beginning of the movie, introducing the characters. Now let's progress to the middle. In the middle of the movie, The basic theme is the bleeding of Mother Earth accelerates. This is the middle of the movie. The bleeding of Mother Earth accelerates. The rich and the government essentially become one and the same, right? And Donald Trump is perhaps the most poignant, iconic visual of that. You've got a rich guy who's now president. And USA is democracy in name only. It's been, the people are manipulated by the media. I should have like big television screens here, you know, keeping the people in line through thought control, with a nod to Noam Chomsky, who pioneered a lot of this. But among, you know, notably among the church, one radical leader, the most powerful from the church, stands up and proposes a radically transformational way forward. That's the Laudato Si from Pope Francis. But few are listening. Now, some of the people begin to wake up and talk about and protest the current arrangement. That includes all of us here on the Social Club at the End of the World. Go Social Club. And also some among the government begin to challenge the current arrangement. For example, President Jose Mujica of Uruguay, Prince Charles of England, who also wrote a book, a very powerful book, along the lines of the Laudato Si, which I have yet to read. But this is the middle. And remember, I promised that we'd put our characters in the worst possible predicament. We are now in the middle of the trash compactor scene of Star Wars. That's where we are now. We've put all the characters, Mother Earth included, all of her children, we're now in this trash compactor zone where the modality of life of the rich raping the planet, exploiting the people, lying to the people, and corrupting government to extract and extract and extract as much wealth and money from this place called planet Earth as they possibly can. That's what's put us in this trash compactor scene, and it's getting worse and worse and worse, and we urgently need to get out of it. That's the middle. Now let's progress on. And here I'm going to actually shift gears and do a little bit of sketching because I haven't quite completed those pictures yet. But so from the trash compactor scene, what happens? You have C-3PO, the robot, basically saying, you know, hey, there's a way out, right? You know, we can stop the trash compactor if we cooperate, right? Collaborate. Yes, sir.
You need to tell people to have to click on the screen to get your screen share to come up.
Oh, okay.
It'll automatically come up.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay, so everyone, please. Yeah, I tried to point that out earlier, but anyway, yeah, you have to click on the icon below that has the screen share in order to see it. So thank you for that, Adam. So we have to cooperate, collaborate, and pool our resources, and we can basically reconfigure ourselves to be a force of healing of both people and the planet. So that's what C-3PO says. But then someone steps forward and challenges C-3PO, and that is Humphrey Bogart. Does everyone see that image in black and white? Now, anyone who I haven't talked about this, who recognizes what that's from, that image? Just speak up if you know it. Didn't I talk with you about it, sweetie, Melissa? Okay, so someone who I haven't spoken with about it, who can guess what that image is from?
I think it's from the movie African Queen.
Good guess. Any other guesses? Okay. It's from Treasure of the Sierra Madre. Okay. And the thumbnail of the story is these three gringos, these three busted out gringos head up into the mountains in search of gold. They've heard some stories, legends of this gold that's up there. They get up there, they start a small mining operation, and they end up accumulating a fair amount of gold. And then when it's finally time to work their way down from the mountain and go back to civilization and live their lives with all this gold that they've accumulated, greed sets in, paranoia sets in. You see it in the face of Humphrey Bogart, right? And this kind of iconic image, sort of a picture tells 1,000 words. So C-3PO is saying, hey, let's all work together. Let's pool our resources. There's enough for everyone. And let's heal planet Earth and heal each other. And, work towards I hate to use the word utopian, but it's sort of a utopian arrangement, kind of like an ant colony, where we're all collaborating, working together. There is no money, and everyone just does the right thing. But nope, Humphrey Bogart says, nope, screw you. I'm not anteing up a penny. I'm not going to give up anything from what I've hoarded. And in fact, I'm going to cut your necks in the middle of the night and take your share of the gold, right? This is this unbridled greed, right? This addiction to money and addiction to hoarding, which is screwing us up. This is the monkey wrench. This is the picture. Humphrey Bogart's face is the human face of this greed and paranoia and obsession and hoarding that keeps us from the road to life, to paraphrase Adam Soul, right? So we now have the central conflict of the movie, which is basically good, as represented by C-3PO and his appeals for us to, collaborate and work together. And Humphrey Bogart, who says, hell no, I'm not participating. I'm going to keep what I've hoarded, right? I'm going to keep what I've won. And which is the central problem of the rich today, hoarding all these resources that could be used to heal Mother Earth and heal humanity, but they're all hoarding it. So I'm kind of thinking of representing this pictorially as this sort of arm wrestling match between Humphrey Bogart and C-3PO. Okay, and then along come our two heroes from a previous scene in the cartoon, Pope Francis and Prince Charles, who both step forward and say, hey, we're not going to get anywhere as long as we've got humanity operating like Humphrey Bogart, consumed by greed, driven by greed, hoarding and unwilling to give anything up, unwilling to participate in a cooperative way, right? And so they contemplate this dilemma as this arm wrestling match is going on between basically good versus greed. And they come up with a plan. They come up with a plan to treat this situation. And the plan they come up with is not to try to either eliminate Humphrey Bogart or convince him that he's wrong through words, but to show the world through action that there is another way, there is a better way. And because ultimately what's driving Humphrey Bogart is fear. Fear that he's not going to have enough. Fear that he's not going to be enough. Fear that he's not going to be loved and cared for, and that he's going to be all alone, out on the street, destitute, right? In fact, that movie begins with Humphrey Bogart down in Tampico, down on his luck, trying to bum change from fellow Americans. Hey, buddy, can you help out a fellow American who's down on his luck? So his fear is that he'll regress to that state, right? That fear keeps us going. So Pope Francis and Prince Charles in this story come together and they address the world. In fact, by that moment, it might be King Charles and Pope Francis. They address the world, and they start with, number one, an apology. You have to start with where you are, and where both of the institutions they represent stand today. Major apologies are in order. You've got pedophilia on the one hand, you've got colonialism on the other. Okay, and oppression and all kinds of terrible stuff. So step number one, an apology. Step number two, it's a time for healing. It's a time for us to come together and heal. And there's two big things on the agenda for healing immediately. The first thing on the agenda for healing is short-term urgent care. Okay? Now listen carefully. Short-term urgent care. This is going to come in two forms. So imagine going back to the first scene, to the trailer where you had the crash and then the MASH unit, the operating room. Well, it turns out we've actually got two patients that we need to care for in the operating room. One of these patients is called Mother Earth, as represented here. And the other patient, I'm just going to call humanity. Okay? Simplistically speaking, there is two patients that need this urgent care. And the urgent care and here's the form of the urgent care that both of these leaders are going to put forward. For humanity, step number one is end hunger. Feed everyone. Through, for example, community cafes, which I've talked about with a number of you that we've pioneered in Southern California. Making nutritious meals, 3 meals a day, available to everyone. No money involved. And for Mother Earth, the urgent care is cooling the planet, most likely through geoshading. Okay? So they do this big press conference, this big speech, this, John F. Kennedy style speech that changed the world. And they say, look, there's two things we need to do right away. The first thing is short-term urgent care, and that comes in these two forms. We need to end hunger, and we need to cool the planet. And beyond that, there's longer-term urgent care required, which I'm simply going to represent not longer-term urgent care, simply longer-term care, which I'm going to represent by this symbol CCC, which stands for Certified Compassionate Companies, which is a new standard for the global economy that we've been developing. And through the leadership of the faithful, with Pope Francis leading the Catholic world and Prince Charles leading the Protestant world as the head of the Church of England, the original powerful Protestant church that challenged the Catholics, with the two of them coming together and inviting all other organized religions and faiths to join, they call upon all faiths to join in this collaborative process, which really has these 3 pillars. 2 pillars of urgent care, cooling the planet and ending hunger, so we can live another day, to then take on our long-term problems through a complete, radical, and holistic transformation. I'll write this down here. What this constitutes is a transformation, a radical transformation of all life on Earth, starting with human activity, which of course impacts currently negatively, but soon to be positively, the rest of planet Earth, the rest of Mother Earth. So they're going to lead a radical transformation of all of life on Earth by creating a new standard for humanity, including but not limited to the global economy. What is economy? But it has its Greek root ecos, which means home. It's management of the home, management of the resources of the home. So this is a longer term healing that will replace fossil fuels with solar, and replace plastic with reusable hemp and cotton materials, for example, for packaging, for transport. Literally a radical transformation of all aspects of life on Earth, because our current modality of life is killing Mother Earth. It's destroying our home. It's really as simple as that. So these leaders, led by leaders such as Pope Francis and Prince Charles, and the leaders I think are just going to start jumping out of the woodwork once they see that there's an actual plan, a story, a new story for humanity and for saving life on Earth, a story of a path, a road to life, to quote Adam Soul. They're going to see that there is a path forward, and people are going to jump in. And we will end hunger with community cafes. It's not that hard. That's the easy part. And the urgent care for humanity. And again, this isn't going to solve all the world's problems or all of people's problems, but it sure helps if people have food to eat. So that's what the first application of urgent care to humanity achieves. That will unite the world. And, you know, cooling the planet is, of course, a bigger and much more controversial conversation. Let's get it on. Bring on the controversy. Pope Francis is totally up for it. If you haven't seen it already, watch the series on Netflix called Call Me Francis. It's absolutely brilliant. And you'll really get to know the man behind the Pope. And so now I know Adam wants to speak, and I want to hear from everyone, but just one final point, that undergirding and empowering all of this, both the elements of urgent care and the long-term care, the long-term transformation of life on Earth, will be the new asset of radical collective intelligence, which is a mashup between collective human intelligence mashed up with artificial intelligence. And that will help us all come together to bring together our unique gifts in order to solve our problems. So that's in a nutshell, that's the high level summary. I want to welcome Miles. Miles, welcome. Didn't know we'd see you today. Very happy to see you. A couple of references from you I've pointed out already, which is Prince Charles and his book that he wrote. You'll remind us of the name in a moment, which is very parallel to Pope Francis's encyclical. So anyway, with that, I conclude my overview of A New Story for Humanity. And just a super brief review, we start with the high-level story is Mother Earth is in a tailspin. We're crashing. And when we crash, or as we're crashing, we need intensive care. We need a MASH unit for Mother Earth. We need an operating room. As we dig into the story deeper, we get to the roots of it. How did we crash in the first place? Well, we got into this really bad modality where we created this thing called money, and then you had rich people raping Mother Earth for her resources, as represented by this big drop of blood here. You have to click on the lower icon in the window to see what I'm screen sharing here. And they're exploiting people. They're corrupting government to be their thugs, their bullies, and to keep the whole system running and give it a rational basis. And then you have the church. What are they doing? They're just praying. Things get worse and worse. The rich and the government become one. The bleeding continues. The destruction of Mother Earth accelerates. One radical leader, Pope Francis, stands up with his encyclical. Another radical leader, Prince Charles, stands up with his book. But few are listening. And we're in the middle of the trash compactor scene of Star Wars. And to get out of it, these two leaders and other leaders come together and say, all right, the big culprit is fear, as represented by the face of Humphrey Bogart in The Treasure of the Sierra Madre. Fear is what's keeping us from coming together and collaborating and cooperating. Fear and greed and hoarding. So Pope Francis and Prince Charles come together, address the world, first with an apology and then an appeal to healing. Short-term urgent care for the planet and for people, ending hunger, cooling the planet, and then long-term care is developing a new standard for humanity, CCC, Certified Compassionate Companies, radically transforming the economy and all of life on Earth, all supported by radical collective intelligence. That's the story in a nutshell. Thanks everyone for listening. We'll now go to open commentary about all this. And next up is Adam. So take it away, Adam.
Hey, Jamin, thanks. And hello to everybody, Melissa, Miles, Mike, and Victoria and Dan, and everybody else that's watching. I really like what you're saying, Jamin, and your new story for humanity is outstanding. So it makes me, besides Pope Francis and Prince Charles writing books, there's other people who have written, and including myself, and so to see how popular they are and how. And then see how difficult of a time I'm having. It makes me feel a little bit better, but I think there are some people that are really searching, and so I like your whole idea, and I wanted to make a point about your this method that you're going to use. About Pope Francis and Prince Charles, they're going to apologize. Well, the thing that I think they need to apologize on the most is that they haven't taught mankind to respect Mother Earth. I mean, that's my biggest dilemma on religion is religion teaches you how to, love God and get along with God. But at the same time, it does not teach you how to respect and love the earth, which is, I think is totally contradictory to even knowing God. So, I mean, the church has been promoting and propagating the propaganda out there that's saying that we don't have a problem and we don't have to worry about it. And we can just continue to consume our planet and make money, and money's good and all that. And it's just contradictory to real life. And so then I'll go on to the another point I wanted to make about your creating this movie and stuff. I think it is a process of attraction that you're trying to create. And I think one of the things is, I was on the internet the other night, and I was on a international site, and it was a nature film I was watching, and I was in the comments section, and there were comments coming in from people from all over the world in their own languages, and I couldn't understand them. So I made a comment in English, and I said, wouldn't it be great if we could understand each other? Then we could everybody around the world could talk together. I think that's one of the problems. I mean, we go to war all these places, and now we have the internet so we can talk to everybody, but we all speak in different languages. So if we could talk to these people we're going to war with, we'd find out that they're people just like us. And it's not really them and us that are going to war. It's them, and it's their government and their corporations that are led by money that are causing these wars to happen. So I think I think artificial intelligence or your radical collective intelligence in this think tank could could give us a, allow us to talk to everybody. That, I mean, that you don't need artificial super intelligence for that. You just need, you just need some, programming in there for language translation. And so you can hear, they can speak in their language and you can hear them in your own language or written text, however you do it. But I think that's a really critical and important part of it. So I think the think tanks, well, I'll just end there. I've said enough. Thank you.
No, very good, Adam. I totally agree with you. Melissa's up next, but I just wanted to pile on with what Adam's saying, that, we don't need to wait for artificial super intelligence, strong AI, that can outthink humans, right? Let's go with the cyborg model from the $6 Million Man. Humans are very creative, very collaborative. We bring so much to the table. We're just missing some of the glue that will help bring us all together. And Adam mentioned automatic translation from one language to another. We've got the technology. To quote the
Jamin, I'll go in the queue too, please, when you got a chance.
Beg pardon, Miles?
Can you put me in the queue?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, Miles. I really appreciate your speaking up. So, so Melissa's in the queue, followed by Miles, followed by Dan, and so let's keep it moving. So, Melissa, you're up. Great to see you, sweetie. Take it away.
Hi, Jamin. Great to see you. Great to see you all. First, I want to say Hawa to Awa, Hawa, Sananawe, Hawa to the people, Hawa, Mother Earth. I want to honor the First Nations people whose land we are standing upon. And Jamin, thank you very much for your inspiration and for your story and for carrying this forward for Mother Earth. I didn't see in your drawing before, but the first page where you showed the church and the government and the rich, ironically, those are the three powers that for hundreds of years have enslaved people and abused their power and have brought us to where we are now, in part. I believe we need to become the keepers of life now again. And as an old maxim says, we see what we are taught to perceive. So we need to see differently, and we must rebuild bridges of understanding between people and the natural world, using story as a way to unify humans and plants and all that lives in the great cycle of coming and going, giving and receiving that is life itself. I think there's a lot of wisdom in these old stories, and I encourage all of us to go back to those old stories and to bring forth these ways of the creation. I also want to remind us that the plant kingdom stands between all of life on earth and eternity, and we forget that as we trash the planet. And that there are laws that nature teaches us, but we need to slow down and relearn those laws. Everything in the universe is related, and we are one family. All of life is equal. And generative power is gender balance, male, female. And to keep life going, all these relationships must be kept in balance. And I want us to remember that, so that we can relearn these things and live in a better way than we must relearn the laws of creation. Do you know what those are? Do we know what those are? We need to turn back to nature and let her teach us these ways. And stories are, and I'm grateful that we're creating with creation this new story, which is a twist. But stories teach us to perceive our relatives in the universe, that they are bridges from the Creator, that life lives to sustain us in body and spirit. And our relatives are beautiful and reliable. They are reliable. We are not reliable. And if we keep and treat them with respect, maintaining the balance of giving and receiving, they will hold us in balance. Mother Earth always seeks to rebalance. So Hawa That's the end of my inspiration for right now. But I wanted to bring us back into that realm of spirit and honoring the mother as we move forward to find solutions for healing life on earth. Thank you.
Beautiful, Melissa. Thank you so much. And thank you for being here. All righty. Next up is Miles, followed by Dan. Take it away, Miles.
Okay, I'd just like to do a sound check because I'm just using the microphone on my iPad. If it's not very good, I can put on my earbuds. How's it sound?
It's just fine, Miles. It's just fine.
Okay.
Carry on.
Very good, very good. So, yeah, I want to pick up on Melissa's talking about stories. And before I do that, though, I'm just showing you, some interesting things. So I'm here in downtown Calgary, and I'm just panning around, showing you some things. So I'll try to talk into the microphone. And this is really interesting. I'm on free Wi-Fi, and there's free electricity here to keep me charged up. And I just think, that's an amazing thing in itself. That for nothing other than the cost of this iPad, which is actually a gift to me. It was my father's, he passed away a couple of years ago. So, I'm able to talk to everybody around the world from this location. And talking about stories, one of the things, this place is sort of special to me because I came down here several years ago when I first started this idea of live streaming on Periscope. And I was part of a body positivity group called Bopo Tribe. And I just happened to discover this place and happened to realize, the significance of it, in that these statues commemorate the suffragettes. So that's representing the front page of the newspaper back in October 1929, when women are persons. Les femmes sont des personnes. So that's really quite staggering, isn't it, when you think about it? Women were not actually persons here. It hasn't even been 100 years. So to Melissa's point about the tell, and part of it is really recognizing truth, not being afraid to call things out for what they are. And one of the big issues, I believe, is man brain, to put it bluntly. It's not. I'm not being disparaging about men, but because we do have a lot of good ideas, but indeed testosterone, as Professor David Shirk said, is the most dangerous substance on the planet, and men have the most testosterone. So I think there's something there about man brain that has to be harnessed properly, and that's where the indigenous people are so much further ahead. The Haudenosaunee of Eastern Turtle Island have to this day women in a position of authority to remove male leaders for misconduct. Even here, Chief Lee Crowchild of the Tsuut'ina Nation, which is adjacent to the city of Calgary, he did a presentation, Talking Wolf, it's referred to as, and another presentation he made where he said, I'm here addressing you as the chief of the Tsuut'ina Nation, but I'm just the jaws, I'm just the mouth. It's the women and elders who speak through me. I'm a servant to them. So, that's where our Western, so-called Western civilization, this Judeo-Christianity, has gone off the rails. And curiously, I was in the Bible looking at Paul. Some people refer to him as Saint Paul, and the he says a lot of great stuff. But then there's this one line where he says, and women, you don't talk in church. If you have any questions, you talk to your husbands after church. You know, like, well, St. Paul, I'm going to say you're not really a saint. You're a horse's ass. And you're like a lot of us men. You know, we can be useless tits, literally. We are. Now, just going to wrap up and say, and I don't want Jamin, I don't want you to get freaked out, but to tell you the truth, I had a dream, and Melissa was in that dream. And I woke up and I wrote down what she said, and she said, love is love. And it's like, wow, that, you know, because this is a word that I've been and maybe Daniel can talk to this, but I discovered the word Carl Jung used, called it circumambulation. So it means we're constantly spiraling down. If you go into depth and search your heart, you're going to find truth eventually. The circumambulation, the spiraling to truth. And this word love is one that we're always, I think personally, I am for sure, circumambulating around, trying to figure out what it is. And I think if we start talking creation stories, one final comment, I listened to Bono, it's a big Bono YouTube fan, and this interview, he says, you know, he's very, very much, you know, a believer in the person of Jesus Christ, but he said, I don't think Jesus came here to create a religion. And I'm thinking, yeah, that's really putting it the way it is. It's not all about Jesus. I was brainwashed to thinking that, yeah, it's all about Jesus. And he would say, no, it's not. It's all about love, you know, and just start talking about love. And to the point where, you know, Christmas, yeah, it's a great idea, but I would say, don't put the focus on me, put the focus on love. So with that, I'll pause.
Beautiful, Miles. Thank you. And since you brought up Melissa in your dream, I just want to read what she wrote here on the screen, unless you'd like to read it, sweetie.
Yeah, I would like to answer that, Jamin. Thank you so much. Thank you, Miles. I woke up this morning in a dreamy state, and I'm driving around the island, and I've got this big public art commission coming up and all these different things happening. And I was just suddenly filled with spirit. I guess I just call it that. And all I could say was, all I can be now is love. All I can do is be love. So, wow, synchronicity at play. And that's exactly what is necessary. So thank you for sharing that and for that confirmation. Hawa. Thank you.
All right. Beautiful. Beautiful. All righty. Well, next up is Dan. Take it away, Dan. Great to see you.
Yeah. So, you know, I have to interject, you know, maybe some discordant notes, but, you know, you're going to be meeting with the Catholic, you know, hierarchy, as I recall, on January 8th. And, you know, the goal is to have them support the propagation of, you know, kind of education about what is actually happening. And I think that's a key thing, because if they do it, you know, in other words, they essentially sign on to not that it's a dire situation, but that it's a dire situation which could come about in just a few years if what's going on is exponential. And, you know, they may do it. I have my doubts that they are going to be able to do it. There's a number of constraints they're probably going to be under, but it's certainly a worthwhile thing to see if it could happen. This encyclical was put out in, I think it was 2015. And, we're now heading into 2019. The Catholic Church, it seems to me, is under tremendous stress. They've lost great credibility around the world. And, I don't know how much they had at various points, but it was considerable. I mean, you have Duterte in the Philippines, who I guess was personally abused by priests, basically saying that, anybody who is a pedophile ought to be shot, and that 90% of the priests are homosexual. Those are his words. And what he means by that is they're not in a position to be preaching about anything because they themselves are violating, their own set of rules, etc. So I wonder, and plus, there's other attacks that, the church has been taken over, again, going to the sexuality issue in the church, where, they've been taken over by Satanists. There's a lot of unfortunate thematic material which is circling the Catholic Church. And I think that, again, when you talk about the apologies, that there ought to be an apology. There definitely should be an apology, but you got to wonder when it comes from, whether it's the, iconic Pope or the Catholic hierarchy, what is that really going to be? Is it going to be valid, or is it going to be, just sort of a soundbite? And then when you go to, Charles in England, and him representing this, it's kind of like he is the pinnacle, the whole royal family of the old order in the world, in the Western world, and the colonialist and all the thrust and all of that. But again, it's just kind of like he represents this entitlement, like somehow we, the royal family, the nepotism, we, the royal family, are allowed to just simply be given all this wealth from the taxpayers because we're real special. We're very, very special people. And you need us. If you don't have us to kind of look up to, and, you're all going to be at a loss or something. It's absurd in a way if you really boil it down to common sense and kind of what's going on in the world. I don't think they have any kind of and before, when we were talking about, what's going on in the United States, the people who support Donald Trump, either strongly or marginally, these are people who have now incorporated the, concept that they have been shafted by the elites. And how did that happen? Because they outsourced all the jobs over to China, Vietnam, Mexico, wherever, in order so they could pursue their hoarding of wealth, etc. And their nepotism, let me do for me and my wonderful family. That's what really counts. And so you have this kind of a real problem with who has credible authority, who are people going to listen to. I don't think that bloc here in the United States is going to in any way, shape, or form pay attention to whatever the Pope or Charles or, may be saying. And again, going back to what what I was talking about last week, you can see in France, you can see what's going on there, and it's, for real, whether it'll be crushed or not. It is definitely a revolt that is centered around the ripoff that the elites have perpetrated through, the neoliberal economics, which, is goes against classical free market economics even. But anyway, so I just think that for me, the fundamentalism that I adhere to is it looks like time is running out of the hourglass, because probably what's going on is an exponential warming of the globe. That means that since it's in the beginning stage, you haven't really felt the effects. And once it gets going, because of all the positive feedback loops. So if you were talking to the Catholic Church, do they even know that? Jamin, do they understand that, this is probably an exponential process and there isn't time to, do very much. It has to be done yesterday, metaphorically. And if they don't really understand that that's a high risk, what you'll get is you'll probably get some sort of, yes, we really appreciate what you're coming to us with. We'll, discuss it and hopefully we can do something. And so I'm gonna, I'll just say, as I've said for, kind of a long time, unless people really can appreciate the high risk and the danger, human motivation as such, you're not going to probably get very far in terms of radical changes. And one final comment about love. Love is a very general word, and that can mean all sorts of things, but usually implies attachments. There can be erotic attachments, there can be, kind of maternal attachments, paternal attachments, there can be attachments to the tribe, to country, whatever. And there's attachments in hoarding. People who are hoarders are attached to their things, what they have. It's like they're in love with what they possess. So again, I'm all for love, but again, I go back again, since we're, as I think I mentioned last week, the symbol of Christ, Christ essentially sacrificed himself for the good of the community, such as it was, for the sins of everybody. He sacrificed himself. Very altruistic. We're living in a culture and a world right now where there isn't really too much altruism out there. And also, again, here in the United States, the people on the Trump side of the spectrum, let's say 40%, a lot of them adhere to Christ, and they, kind of see Christ as, a shepherd who has to protect the flock. And that translates into a lot of things having to do with militaries and Second Amendment. So I do think that, I hope that when you present to the hierarchy in Cleveland, that somehow there can be transmitted to them a real sense of urgency, and that it's back against the wall, time to step up if you're able to do it. Well, that's it. I'm going to turn it over to whoever's next.
Great, thank you, Dan. You made a lot of good points there. I'll address some of them when it's my turn.
I'll jump in the queue again too, Jamin.
Oh, great, okay. So the queue at this point is Adam, followed by Melissa, followed by Jamin, followed by Miles. So take it away, Adam.
Hey, thanks, Evan. I wanted to respond especially to Melissa's presentation there. She opened with a prayer from the First Nations people. And and Miles alluded to women being, important, and Dan alluded to there's so many problems, and mankind is so is so adamant on these hoarding and the elite and stuff. So we're up against really a lot of problems that are practically seem like they're unsolvable. Well, I think we have to stop thinking in the direction that says negative and start thinking in the positive. And what things can be on our side? What can we work with? Not what can work against us, but how we can make it work. And I think that Mother Earth is part of the things that can make it work. If you think about mankind was put on. Mother Earth is the mother of all life that we know of in the universe. And we are the most intelligent life, as far as we know, that she's made. So she, in my opinion, she wanted us to be here. I mean, and we lived here as hunters and gatherers. The Homo sapiens lived on the planet as hunters and gatherers for like 300,000 years before we became civilized. So she wants us to be here, in my opinion. But we've become poisoned, in my opinion, again, and we're destroying the earth. So if we turn around, and show her that that we are changing, that we are opening our eyes, and we show her that we've significantly saw this, and I think one of these significant things would be for the Catholic Church to come out with a major apology and say they were wrong on they're wrong on their teachings of respect for Mother Earth. That, I think, that nobody's perfect, and they started out wrong because with this celibacy rule, which is breaking a natural law of God. And anytime you break a natural law, you're going to have consequences. Well, we've all done that. I mean, everybody, nobody's perfect. We've all made mistakes. And the Catholic Church has made mistakes, but they're also very powerful. So I think that we just need to show Mother Earth that we are serious about changing. And I think if we show her, we have a dramatic reduction in our carbon footprint, and we change. And personally, my feeling is that the way to go about this change is to show a new way of life on this on this Radical Collective Intelligence website. We show a new way of life that could be, and then if we, I'm getting ahead of myself and probably already made my point. So if I didn't make my point, somebody let me know. But I think I'm done. Thank you.
Good stuff, Adam. Really good stuff, man. You're making your point beautifully. You're just speaking from the heart, and I encourage everyone to just do exactly that. It's really going well. All right, next up in the queue is Melissa, followed by Jamin, followed by Miles. Take it away, Melissa.
Thank you, Jamin. Wow, Adam, that was beautiful, and I really enjoyed hearing what you had to say, and I feel the same way. I think apologies are due to the First Nations people and for many other things, and I think forgiveness is also part of that. Every governing body pretty much on this planet at this point is corrupt or has some issue. So I think we just have to pursue in any case. And we're, as we all know, running out of time. And so whatever avenue we can approach, we just have to do it. And I think also with the rate of change that Dan, you mentioned on the planet heating up and these feedback loops, that probably more and more people will get on board anyway, and that the shift of the paradigm is happening at the same time. So there's all these changes that are happening, some of which some are not. And so I just encourage us all to continue. They're always, I just wanted to come back to this quote of this old maxim, which is we see what we are taught to perceive. And I thought it was interesting, Dan's, what you had, your feedback about love and what love is and how we interpret that. I do think in America, we very much look at these other aspects of love rather than a sort of on a purely spiritual level. So when Miles was talking about love, I personally understood it on a spiritual level, not sort of an erotic, sexual, or the caring, nurturing aspect, but on a more pure state. And I think possibly in Europe, love is not so taboo. So we don't have such an issue with that word and with love in action. So I just wanted to mention that. But I'm all about encouraging us to continue with the Catholic Church at this point. Jamin has tried many different avenues with many of us, and this one seems to be the most promising. It is a powerful house, and yes, they have committed sins, but the Pope, the Laudato Si exists, and Prince Charles, yes, he's part of royalty and nepotism and whatever else goes on there, but he also has a spiritual voice. And so I think that we have to look at those and not look at the other aspects, which Adam raised. Let's be positive and let's not kind of get into this negative. However, having clarity and understanding things as they truthfully are and not overlooking them, see them, but still remaining in the positive. Thank you.
Beautiful, Melissa. Thank you. All right. Next up in the queue is Jamin, followed by Miles, followed by Dan. All right. What I have to say, I want to go back to some of the comments that were raised in the last few minutes. First of all, regarding urgency that you raised, Dan, about, does the Catholic Church see the urgency? It's a great question. And the short answer is I don't know. And because I don't know, I want to prepare for the worst. And the worst is that they don't see the urgency and therefore don't respond in kind. So to mitigate that risk, I've invited Guy McPherson and his partner Pauline to come to Cleveland and to be there for this series of meetings, in a supporting role, but, to definitely be there. So if anyone says, hey, is this really urgent, blah, 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 don't we have till 2100? I want to pull Guy McPherson out of a closet and, let him just have at it. But now what's interesting, now we get to another topic, which is the credibility of the Catholic Church and, the sins committed by the Church in recent decades. And, what authority do they have, urgency or otherwise? So I on December 1st, I had a 45-minute conversation with Guy McPherson, telling him all about the opportunity, the upcoming meeting on January 8th and everything like that, and saying, look, I'd really love for you to be there. You and Pauline, come be my guests. And, and we talked in depth about it. A few days later, I get an email from Pauline saying, not even saying, dear Jamin or anything like that, or no acknowledgement, no thank you for the invitation, nothing. Simply a link to an article about pedophilia in the Catholic Church. And she wrote to me, no thanks. I think pedophiles should burn in hell. As if I, Jamin, am like, the president of, a support organization for pedophilia or something, right? So, but this just shows you the polarization around this. And, the lack of willingness to engage within any institution that's committed such great sins. You also raised, the royal family. What the hell credible authority are they? They're like, the world leaders of colonization and appropriation and racism and genocide and all these terrible things. Where the hell did their wealth come from, right? selling Girl Scout cookies? I don't think so. So, we're now in a situation where some of the most powerful organizations in the world are deeply stained with sin and hypocrisy. And that's just keeping us all divided. And so, my point is, look, these institutions are not perfect. In fact, part of the beauty of this whole strategy, bringing the Catholic Church and the royal family to take a leading role, is precisely the controversy of all this. Look at how controversial this is going to be. People are going to be jumping up and down. Who the hell are the Catholics to say that they're going to lead, blah, blah, blah. Look at what and the royal family, off with their heads, right? So my attitude is, it's time to get it on. It's time to get this conversation started. And these institutions, however imperfect, are in a beautiful position to lead this. Pope Francis has already taken the lead. The Catholic Church has tremendous power at organizing people and making stuff happen. What's the first item of urgent care? Ending hunger, like Mother Teresa did. Who could argue with that? So, this is a very complex hodgepodge with some very colorful characters, with some very colorful history. Welcome to life on Earth, right? Will those without sin please cast the first stone? Right? It's time for us to get together, take our assets, and work together to end hunger, cool the planet, and radically transform all of life on Earth. A la Triple C, a la, etc. Okay. All right. Next in the queue is Miles, followed by Dan, followed by Adam, who also has a quote, which I'll let you read when it's your turn, Adam. So, meanwhile, take it away, Miles.
Okay, thank you. I'm just going to have a swig of water here. So I'll follow up on what you just were talking about, Jamin, with respect to the faults and serious flaws of these institutions. What you're looking at is a spot that I was actually standing at on Friday. And if you go to my Twitter flag, you'll see where I have a photo of where I had a number of signs out at this location. I had my globe with my two layers of food wrap, saran wrap, and trying to get people to talk about Greta Thunberg's message. Does everybody know who Greta Thunberg is from Sweden? 15-year-old.
Message in the last couple of days. Powerful stuff.
Yes, and so on Thursday, this is another organization I think every one of us should join. I'm a member of Scientists Warning. That is Stuart Scott's initiative. I think there's a great synergy that can be had between Radical Collective Intelligence and the Scientists Warning Group. So anyway, through Stuart Scott, I learned of Greta Thunberg and watched her panel discussions with him from Katowice, Poland at COP24. And she has a 1-minute video, and she's just pleading for other kids to strike on Fridays. And I thought, well, I'm an adult. I'm not going to strike, but I'll go to work. So I bundled up my signs and I headed down first to City Hall, which you can actually see in the distance there. I set up my signs and you can see them on my Twitter feed. And I was there for a little while, and then the security came along and asked me to fold up my sign and stuff, put my stuff away, and they would come and take me to their office and explain to me the bylaw. And so I said, okay, thank you very much. Now, one of the things you don't see is that I really, as far as I'm concerned, I'm dressed like a Philadelphia lawyer. I'm in a suit and tie, and I have a pin of mine that I'm a member of the Canadian Club of Calgary. And so, you know, I was leveraging every advantage and privilege I have, but nevertheless, I also got turfed out. So I thought I'll go to the library, and you'll also see a photo of my setup at the Calgary Public Library main branch. And again, I was there for half an hour and then escorted, you know, or well, not escorted, but told that I could not display the sign. And so then I finally came to this location that you're seeing here. And in that evening, only 2 people actually would engage in a conversation. And the one person who engaged in conversation here, I said, well, would you watch Greta's 1-minute video? And I said, it's about global warming. As soon as I said global warming, she like kind of almost freaked out and said, it's not warming, we're going into an ice age. And I was like, oh my God, you're just totally diametrically opposite of everything I'm thinking. But you know what I did? I did not let the devil's trick interfere. Now, this is something I just learned from the Carl Jung Depth Psychology Reading Group YouTube channel. Skip Conover, former military Marine lieutenant in the Marines. Anyway, Carl Jung has a concept of the devil's trick, and that is we are easily swayed to destroy relationship over an issue. So we'll sacrifice relationship for an issue. So your child, let's say, comes to you and says, I'm homosexual. So are you going to be like some parents and throw the child out or the kid out or the young person out? Are you going to let homosexuality, you know, dictate your relationship? Similarly, like I know the atrocities committed by these priests, are we going to let that evil destroy our opportunity to reach out and establish relationship with the Roman Catholic Church? And another thing I'll say, which might surprise you, I am a member of the Monarchists League of Canada. And if I had time, I would tell you how important the Crown is and how the royal family is important to me. And I would actually take you down a road to consider that in so many instances, the sovereign has spoken and nobody's listened. And in fact, if you read Harmony, the book by His Royal Highness, the Prince of Wales, Charles, the first line is, we need a revolution. So again, don't have enough time to go into a lot of detail with you about why I'm a member of the Monarchists League of Canada and will, you know, promote the royal family any opportunity I have. But so the devil's trick, I guess, is just what I want to wrap up on and remind people to check out Scientist Warning. And it's so important that we have definitions. And the definition of love that I've come to a synthesis on is love is a life-affirming force. Love is a life-affirming force. And I would also suggest that we can actually create a new religion. Now you're going to say, what? Religion? What are you talking about? Well, again, it's how do you define religion? Carl Jung, his definition of religion is what we attend to, or what you attend to. So if you attend to hockey games, hockey is your religion. If we attend to love, we can create a whole new religion around the life-affirming force, and it could be a meta-religion that, you know, essentially embraces the Roman Catholic Church, Protestantism, Judaism, Islam, and we may actually find we're not that far apart. Okay, thank you.
Great stuff, Dan. Miles. Sorry, great stuff, Miles. And next up is Dan, followed by Adam. Followed by. Go ahead, Dan.
Okay. So just following up again on how is the Catholic hierarchy going to respond. And you know what when you, Jamin, when you said you invited Guy McPherson and Pauline to attend, you know, I was like, well, that's great, good move. But then when you know, when you go ahead and you say, then Pauline shot me over a link, you know, that's the response. You know, that's unfortunate. But here's, you know, here's the thing. In my mind, we've had so much difficulty establishing the realistic risks that exist, just that. And so, for example, if you had actually had Guy McPherson there, and he's there saying, hey, look, here's what's going on. It's exponential. Time is really limited. This is how it's going to go down generally. It's going to be a real dystopia. And then there's not going to be anything. Well, the thing is, Guy McPherson, again, as we all know, has been preaching that message. And he's done it in a very rational, I think, coherent, effective manner, backed up by evidence. And yet he's been marginalized to hell, you know. And you know, and to me, that's a really important reality or fact. And so, for example, we still have, you know, I was listening to Peter Wadhams again, you know, kind of criticizing the IPCC, you know, outlook on things, and just basically, you know, coming down to, hey, they're not taking into account any sort of an exponential process, the meltdown of the Arctic, the release of the methane, which is steadily going on. And therefore, what the IPCC does, the big authority, it just basically is deceptive. And it really almost amounts to, in a way, disinformation. And so when you think of the, you know, I don't imagine the individuals you'll be speaking to in the Cleveland hierarchy on January 8th are going to be up on all of this particularly. And the tendency, again, is always to listen to the authority figures, you know, the IPCC and all of these scientists who have been intimidated and aren't able to really speak out just on the real risks. It's just been a long-term problem. And I've always, you know, in my mind, it's like, why aren't we having on, you know, mass media, a debate between, you know, Guy McPherson side of things and the other side, and not having a debate just simply be a moment in time. Oh, let's watch it, and then we'll go back to the football games, the basketball games, whatever else, you know, we focus on, and then it becomes forgotten. But that you have some continuity. This is a really important thing. It's so much more important than, you know, whether Donald Trump has some campaign violations or something, and you know, you know, kind of the almost the delusion that if Trump is taken out, everything will be wonderful. That's just totally ridiculous. And that's what you get on the media. That's the continuing story and the focus, not what's going on with the planet. And if you could somehow have that actually occur, then people would, in great numbers, come to reality. And you know, it just seems that at this point in time, you know, I don't know why this is coming to my mind, maybe because of the discussion of the Native American, you know, tribal remnants and history. You know, what happened with Elizabeth Warren recently, you know, where she had, you know, kind of used what she believed to be her I think it was Cherokee, from Oklahoma, Native American background as, kind of a badge of credibility. And then, she essentially did get kind of suckered into this thing with Trump, where she goes ahead and actually has the DNA test that he was challenging her to have. And now, it's like, well, you can't really continue with that narrative. And the reason I bring this up, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to connect this, but I remember when she first came in to prominence, and I really loved what she was saying. She was standing up to the financial elites and the ripoff system. And she described, I never read the book, but I guess, she described a meeting she had with Lawrence Summers, the former president of Harvard. And then I think he was Treasury Secretary. But in any case, a strong proponent of aggressive neoliberal economics and part of the elites. And she described where he comes to her and they have lunch together. And he basically says to her, well, you can either be an insider or an outsider. And, you have to make that choice. Now, if you're going to be an insider, you cannot ever say anything, essentially blow the whistle on any other insider. Do you want to get those rewards that we can confer on you and, of course, your wonderful family and whoever is hooked with you? And she, I believe, rejected that. And, but to me, again, there she is, kind of getting caught up in this sort of endless soap opera, that goes on. And we just don't seem to be able to ever get to a meta level discussion of all of these things, it's which is needed, because if you can't discuss the death of the planet, the death of humanity at this point in time, then, all of this other stuff is just, it really does become the bread and circus diversions until, it all disappears. And now, can the Catholic Church, who has been, suffered great attacks on their credibility, somewhat justifiable, of course, because of their own inability to come to grips with, the priesthood and sexuality, etc. Can they do something? They probably could. They still have a certain prominence, and there's many people who, still have the faith. But it just seems, I wouldn't want to bet on it. Anyway, I'm gonna let it go and turn it over to whoever's next.
All right, thank you, Jim. Adam, next. Take it away, Adam.
Okay, thanks. First of all, I'd like to share something that a mutual friend of ours wrote, and he said that the Catholic Church addresses Mother Earth as Mary, so it might not be advisable to, when you're doing your presentation to the Catholic Church, to address the Mother Earth as Mother Earth. And I kind of I got the same kind of feedback on my Red Man, White Man paper. And I think that, I think that these different groups, they speak their own language. I mean, they can speak English or anything, but they have their own clique or cliches and stuff that they use. And, I think you have to speak in your own language. I think you have more chance of offending them if you try to use their language and they take it wrong. But so that's what he wanted to say, and I'll let he addressed that to you, Jamin. So, but what I wanted to talk about was how we can use artificial intelligence or this radical collective intelligence to develop a website. I think this is really a critical answer. And here's the deal. I think if we apply think tanks, we can have this artificial intelligence be what we want it to be. And I think that mankind doesn't know artificial intelligence. We haven't been introduced to it yet. We don't know what an intelligence is that can be, way far more intelligent than us. So my understanding is, and maybe we don't have it quite down yet, but say we have 10 laboratories that are working on artificial intelligence. And so what if the Catholic Church joins in and people join together? What if we increase that to 100 think tanks or 100 laboratories? Then pretty soon we can have that artificial intelligence. And if we have a platform like Radical Collective Intelligence, then people could talk to the artificial intelligence on a one-on-one basis. I think that would be the process of attraction, because and it would introduce people to this new intelligence that we have. And if people can go online and speak with the AI on a one-to-one basis, then they can get answers. They can talk to the AI about anything personal, and it would be unbiased, and just tell them the facts as it sees it. And I think if we could create a website like this, then that would be a place where everybody would want to go. That's the process of attraction that I'm talking about. So we create a site where people can go and talk on a personal level to the AI. And then when people like I was talking to a friend of mine the other night, and it's just impossible to explain to him the concepts of saving the world. He's so much wrapped up into his making money and stuff that there's no way he's even going to go along with it long enough to see the possibilities. Well, if I could tell him to go to an AI website and talk to the AI, and AI is the most intelligent thing we've ever had. We've never had this tool before, and now mankind's going to start using this tool. He's going to force it on us, basically. He's going to force it through machine intelligence and stuff like that, and we don't really get a choice. What's really forcing it onto us is money, because they're making money off of it. So
Can I interject?
Huh?
Can I interject something?
Sure.
Yeah. So just to maybe put something for you to Adam. Recently, Wadhams was saying he feels ditch after.
Hey, Miles, you're breaking up really bad, buddy. You might want to turn off your camera so we can hear you better, because you're really breaking up.
Okay, sorry. Is that better sound now?
Little better. Yeah. Thanks, Miles.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah. Anyway, Adam, I don't want to take too much time, but Peter Wadham says he feels the last ditch effort that we can have is to do carbon sequestration. And so at Squamish, British Columbia, there's a plant that makes this apparently pure fuel out of the CO2 out of the air. All it takes is renewable electricity as a feedstock to this plant. And they create a fuel, literally a fuel out of the air. So, like we could get going with the AI, just getting people brainstorming. Okay, how do we ramp up these plants? They say they need as many of these plants as there are coal or power plants, like 10,000 plants. So we need to start building these things. And so let's get going with AI on that. Okay.
Yeah, good stuff, Miles. Go ahead, Adam.
Oh, well, I agree. And there's a whole lot of things that we need to do. That's why I say we need like that set of plans. I mean, finding our way out of this mess is like building a skyscraper, and you can't start the building of it without having a set of plans. Well, the AI can put that set of plans together for us. And I think that's the process of attraction. And I think Jamin's right on course with this. And so I hope the Catholic Church can realize this. And that's my point. Thank you.
All right. So next up in the queue is Jamin, and I don't think anyone is in the queue after me. And in fact, after I speak, I'm going to have to bow out because I'm going to have to take a nap, and then before another big meeting later this afternoon. But here's what I want to say. Just consider, with everything we've been talking about, we're talking about a major PR blitz led by Pope Francis and the King of England, saying we're going to end hunger, cool the planet, transform the global economy, and do all this with radical collective intelligence, right? Take that single PR strategy, that PR message, and ask yourself, could AI have come up with that? I think the answer in 2018 is pretty obvious. No. They could not have. Can AI measure the reflectivity of, water droplets and therefore calculate how much sunlight goes back into space? Yes, they're really good at that. AI is great at that. But coming up with a strategy that's going to radically transform all of life on Earth, I think AI is the wrong guy. Okay? This is something humans need to. Well, and then Adam says AI can if we put enough labs to build it. Look, even with 100 labs working away on AI, I don't think AI could have come up with this strategy. This is something that we humans have to come up with. So AI is definitely going to play a part, but I don't think AI is up to the task of coming up with the entire solution. We have to come up with it. And frankly, I think we have. And that is this strategy of the Pope of the Catholic Church, the King of England, and the leader of the Church of England. Now you're talking. Adam just typed AI cross HI. That's what I'm talking about. But I'm just being very emphatic. AI alone is not going to get us there. Not in 2018. Maybe in 2048, if we're still alive, AI could probably figure it out. But AI of 2018, nowhere close. Do we need AI? Yes, but not to come up with the answers. To model? Yes. To optimize? Yes. But we humans need to creatively come up with the answers. And I think we're there. The Catholic Church, led by Pope Francis, who's already published the encyclical, teaming up with the soon-to-be King of England, Prince Charles, who came up with Harmony, the two of them together announcing to the world, we're going to apply urgent care to people and the planet. We're going to end world hunger, and we're going to cool the planet. And we're going to do it with radical collective intelligence, not AI, RCI. Now there's a story. Is it controversial? Yes. Will it work? I believe it will. I'm going to have to take a break. I need to hit the bathroom, and then I urgently need to take a nap. Very low on sleep. Lots to do. So I'm just going to go on mute. Keep it rolling. Keep it broadcasting. Keep it recording. And I'll let the rest of y'all self-manage in my absence. I'm sure you'll do fine. And just unmute when it's your turn to talk. Put yourself in the queue, however you need to. And I'll be listening in for a few minutes while I wind down here. Thanks so much. Great to see everyone. Jamin Shively going on mute, but still listening in as I'm able.
I just wanted to say I have to go. So Merry Christmas to you guys, and I'll look forward to seeing you soon.
Yeah. I have to get going myself. I'm just wondering though, are we going to be meeting over the next 2 weeks, or are we going to be taking an extended holiday break, given when Christmas and maybe New Year's? I know Christmas is going to be on a Tuesday, and maybe New Year's is too. Any?
Yeah. I would say that probably we break. Well, I'm game. I can continue to call in. I think, I'm not entirely sure. So, but whatever was, if the link gets sent out, I'll do my best to jump on.
Okay. Well, in any case, again, really appreciate the opportunity to socialize in the social club. And I'm sure if we don't meet before the holidays are over, I'll look forward to seeing everybody in the new year, when a lot's going to be happening. And take care, everybody. I got to go.
Just everybody else who's still on.
Oh, hey, I'll just jump
Anyway,
in. I overheard that. So I'll tell you what, let's just kind of keep it casual for the next 2 weeks. If people are able to join, great. If I'm able to kick it off, great. If I'm not, no big deal. And I'll just keep people posted via email, and feel free to respond. Thanks.
Jamin,
go ahead.
Yeah, Jamin, before you go, one of the things I was just thinking, in the new year, could we start a channel, maybe if particularly you as Radish's founder, if you could reach out to those people at Squamish, British Columbia, who have these plants, or has this plant that extracts carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and makes a fuel out of it, and ask them if they would join in on a hangout like this, talking about, okay, if we're going to build 10,000 of these plants, what do we have to do? And sort of just actually now move some really concrete with move into something. Not sure if anybody heard that.
We can't hear you, Miles. You're breaking up.
Oh, I was breaking up too much? Let me try moving.
Yes.
I changed. Hear me?
Well, I'm going to say goodbye too. So y'all have a good day. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Anybody here? So I guess I was breaking up. The last thing I just wanted to say is that thought we could talk about actually building these CO2 plants. If we could maybe get the people from that company at Squamish, we could actually talk about construction of 10,000 plants around the world and give us something anyway, so I'm the last one on here. Wish everybody a Merry Christmas and when next call.
All right, everyone, we're wrapping it up. Really great hangout today. Thanks to everyone for participating. So as I said, we'll keep it casual for the next couple of weeks. We'll probably meet, but no big pressure. And, you know, it'll probably be only a few of us if we do meet. I heard your last point there, Miles. Definitely worth bringing them on. Would love to talk with them. So good stuff. All right, good stuff, everyone. See you next time. Thanks.